I would like to share. Okay, so I'm ready when you are.
Okay, so is that the only thing that you want to share with me, or you have one more?
I did send the second item, and that is
right.
It's students who sent me the essays, and then also selections of sentences that I've taken.
Do you want to disclose this or no? Do you want to share this on the screen?
I do want to share that, but that will be the second item that I share.
If you want to share the first item and then the second item, that
I'll let you.
I'm gonna download it. Yep. Okay.
Well,
hi everyone. Do we have every?
Sure.
Admit two more. There we go. 1, 2, 3. We are missing one, but it's fine. I'm gonna download this. I'll be there. Hey, how are you? Can you guys hear us?
I can. Hello.
Need some voice here. Hello. Thank you so much for joining, everyone. So welcome to our project, Education USA Clinic. And we are proud to have all of you guys here and participating, and hopefully that you will learn a lot from us today. So I want to let you know that my name is Santika. I am one of the Education USA advisor. We have a lot of advisors in Indonesia, so I'll let you guys know my fellow advisors. And we have Mas Iqbal right here with us. He is based in the US Embassy, Jakarta, and he is our host today and co-hosting with me and Mr. Will today. So I'm going to share Education USA introduction slides. I'm going to share my screen right now. So give me 1 second. All right. I think I'm having some technical issues. Mas Iqbal and Will, I'll be back in 1 minute. Give me 1 minute.
Sure.
Sorry.
All right. Well, I don't mind taking a minute to just introduce myself and to talk. My name is Will Pittman. I come from the United States. I live near Washington, D.C. I am stationed this year at Universitas Negeri Malang. And I'm happy to work with Iqbal and Santika today. Happy to work with all of you. I read your essays, but Santika is back.
Yes, I'm back. All right, so I'm trying to share screen right now. It's going to be here. Can everybody see the screen?
Yes.
Yes. All right. So welcome to Education USA Indonesia's event. This is going to be the introduction and general information about Education USA before we head to the essay clinic with Will. So Education USA is a U.S. Department of State network of over 400 international student advising center in more than 170 countries. So what it means is basically kita ini adalah Menteri Luar Negerinya Amerika Serikat. Oke, jadi kita ini official, source-nya dari pemerintah Amerika Serikat, dan semuanya gratis, ya. What we do is we promote U.S. higher educations to students around the world by offering accurate, comprehensive, and current information about studying in the States. Alright, itu mengcover S1, S2, dan S3. Teman-teman boleh tolong mute ya kalau lagi ada yang presentasi. Oke. Next, bantu everyone who is interested to study states. These are the 5 steps that we use. Step pertama, research your options. So this is when we will discuss about what kind of level of study that you're applying to, and then what programs you're interested to. This is where we talk about it, right? Generally and ideally, we want everyone to already know what study, at least that, because we cannot just tell you what's good and what's not good. We tailor everything based on. Jadi setiap datang ke kita itu mereka harusnya sudah punya tujuan atau preferensi, karena tidak bisa mengarahkan, oh kamu bagusnya buat program ini aja, program itu aja, gitu. Ya. Dua, finance your studies. So this is when we talk about scholarship opportunities, right? And a lot of form as so some of you probably already earn LPDP scholarship, so congrats, right? But some of you who have not, talk about it, like what are your options. Step 3, application. Ini part paling penting. This is the most important part and the most seek service in Education USA, Indonesia, and maybe around the world. This you need to prepare for one of them, which is what we are going to do today, essay, CV and resume, letter of recommendations, TOEFL, IBT or IELTS, or GRE or GMAT test if needed, and also your transcript and everything else that's requested to apply, right? So basically the complete application package or requirements. And Education USA will be able to help you with reviewing your CV or resume, and also your essay and any discussions that you need to fulfill the requirements, ya. Jadi nggak cuman bisa minta bantuan dari Will, tapi bisa juga dari Education USA, dan semua advisor itu bisa membantu kalian untuk essay review sama CV review dan pertanyaan-pertanyaan lainnya tentang requirement-nya. Ya. Step 4, apply your student visa. So this is when you got accepted to any US universities. We'll be able to provide you with the step-by-step on what to do next so that you can get your student visa. But you will be the one who still apply on yourself and also go to the interview by yourself, right? And it's the same here, like for the step 3 earlier that I mentioned, you are the one who will submit your application. But we are here to support you, okay? So last step is prepare for your departure. This is our annual event, pre-departure orientation. We invite the current student, alumni, and everyone who got accepted for that academic year to go to the States and to just prepare what you can bring, like culture shock, how to handle them, what to expect, and everything like that. So all of our events are open to the public. Jadi walaupun kalian belum keterima, kalian mau join, boleh juga. Kalau kalian baru tertarik buat sekolah ke Amerika aja juga, gak apa-apa, ikutan aja gitu. Jadi there's no rules that you have to be at certain point to join any of our event, okay? All right, so this is Education USA Indonesia list of centers and advisors. Yang pertama ada di Jakarta, pertama dan kedua ada di Jakarta. Di Jakarta itu ada di US Embassy dengan Mas Iqbal. Sama kalau aku virtual ya. Terus yang kedua ada di At Amerika Jakarta, Pacific Place Mall, ada Caroline sama Mei. Di Surabaya di Universitas Airlangga Unair dengan Mbak Ambar. Di Malang di Universitas Muhammadiyah dengan Mas Zaki. Di Makassar di Universitas Fajar dengan Kak Cendani. Last but not least, we are also in Banda Aceh in Universitas Islam Negeri UIN Araniri with Kak Lilis. Alright, so just a little note, walaupun aku virtual, aku itu kadang akan bisa available juga di US Embassy di My America Jakarta sama dengan kayak Mas Iqbal, okay? Alright, so this is how you can book an advising session with us. Mau cuma nanya-nanya, kamu bisa booking yang manapun yang paling dekat dengan kamu. But we recommend you to stick with one advisor supaya nggak bingung nanti misalnya kalau udah ketemu sama Mas Iqbal, terus kamu ketemu aku, nanti kamu harus mengulang apa yang kamu bahas dengan Mas Iqbal ke aku gitu. So we recommend you to stick with one advisor to help you and help us better. And you can just scan this QR code right here for the advising session. Kamu akan direct ke calendly.com/educationusa Indonesia. Kamu bisa cari nama Mas Iqbal di situ, kamu bisa nyari nama aku di situ, okay? So that's that. And if you're not in Jakarta area and then you prefer to meet advisor in Surabaya, Malang, Makassar, or Aceh, feel free to do so juga. Okay? Alright, ini full information and future events bisa kalian cari di educationusa.state.gov. That's the full information on Education USA and everything else. Like if you wonder if Education USA can do this or that, then you can go there to seek out. But we'll be very updating our Instagram account at Education USA Indonesia on all of our events and everything else. Okay, so follow us and just make sure you are in touch with us. Okay, we are looking forward to help you achieve your higher education in the United States and hope you'll enjoy this event. Thank you, and I will be handing this over to Will. He is the Regional English Language Office Fellow. So we call the Regional English Language Office as RELO. So Will is teaching English, right, Will?
Yes.
And so Will is in Malang. So yeah, I'm going to hand it over to Will. So if he can introduce himself to all of you guys, it will be nice.
Yes.
All right,
Okay.
Will.
Thank you, Santika. I am also happy to encourage you all to pursue your studies in the United States. I have many students here in Malang, and not many of them talk about going to the United States. So I'm kind of happy to see people who are encouraged to do it. And I read all of your essays so far, and I know several of you have very specific places that you want to go to, and I think that's great. So I'm here to help, and I'll give you my email address at the end of the session so that you can keep in touch with me if you need some further assistance. So again, I am here with RELO. This is a one-year project for me. I am an academic writing teacher at the university, or have been at the University of Maryland for a while, and I don't remember which of you was going to apply to Maryland, but yes, it's a very good school. It's a good place, so I definitely encourage that. But as I say, I'm an academic writing teacher, and so I have some very basic kind of general things I wanted to start off by talking about, and then after that, we can kind of get into the specifics of your essays, your sentences, that sort of thing. But first, I thought I would just talk a little bit about some of the basics that I teach all of my students, whether they are English as a second language or native speakers. As far as I'm concerned, these general thoughts are related to organizing your thinking, which I think is really what writing is all about. Writing is about organizing your thinking. So I would like to start there. So Santika, I have asked you to put that essay structure PDF up. If you could do that, I would appreciate it.
All right, I will upload it in the chat box, and let me know if you want me to do the share screen as well.
Actually, yeah,
I can do that.
It's fine for the chat box, but I would like to share it as well.
Okay. All right, I'm going to share the screen right now. Excellent. And I will send it later once Will is done. There you go. Okay, so I'm opening this.
And it's a few different pages, but
so
actually
this is the essay structure.
Go backwards if you would, please. Just the first page. Keep going backwards.
Backwards.
To this one. Yes,
there
that's if we could just pull it up a little bit or make it a little smaller so that we get oops.
I'm not sure if we could.
Well, what I want is just to see, I just want to see the shape. I don't need the words.
Let me try. All right, there you go.
Thank you so much.
See?
Okay. So when I teach essay writing, I teach my students that the perfectly shaped essay is a hexagon. And I like my students to have this idea in their heads before they begin to write anything, whether it's one paragraph or 5 paragraphs or 10 or 20 or 100 paragraphs. If they have this idea in their minds, I just feel like it helps to be confident in the organizing of your ideas. So this hexagon is, I want you to stare at it until it gets burned into your brain, because this shape is the foundation of the way that the Western mind thinks and organizes their thinking. So let's move on to the next one. We can talk about the specifics of this structure. If we can, Santika, the second panel. Thank you so much.
There we
So
go.
the first part of the hexagon is the triangle at the top. And basically, it is the introduction. And the introduction begins in a small way with what I call the microcosmic example, and I'm happy to talk about what that means in just a second. But as you can see, each step of the way in the introduction gets bigger. More information is included. If you want to use a visual idea, what I tell my students is the microcosmic example is the camera is right here. And then the camera backs up and includes a little bit more. And then the camera backs up a little bit more until at the bottom of the introduction, you're at the biggest view. So I've got the numbers there. Obviously, those numbers can be varied, but the idea is that each step of the way in the introduction includes more information, allows the reader to see more about what you are talking about. Finally, the last part of the introduction is the thesis. And this thesis would be essentially for all of you, the reasons that I want to go to the United States to study are 1, 2, 3. I probably wouldn't use this phrasing, an examination of reveals. That's more for essay writing in a class. What we're working on here, of course, are applications and personal statements. So you don't really need to say you're examining something if it's a personal statement. So don't worry about that, the phrasing of that thesis there. We could talk more about that as we go forward. Dear friends, please ask me any questions anytime. I don't want to just blast through this if you have any questions or any confusion. So questions are fine at any point. Now, we will talk about how this looks in reality once we get to your particular essays. But this is the introduction, the first part of the hexagon, the triangle at the top of the hexagon. Santika, can we go to the second? Or I guess this would officially be the third. The body paragraphs. Now, I have 131 structure is the basic structure of a paragraph. And of course, different contexts, different ways to approach this. But the way that I see it is one sentence is the topic of the paragraph. 3 sentences are in support of that topic. And the 5th one is then either the summary or the transition into the next one. So this is a very quick and very basic sort of idea. And it may be that your personal statement does not necessarily have to have separate paragraphs, and we can talk about that. But again, when I'm sharing academic writing, when I'm sharing organizing your thinking, I always encourage my students to think in paragraphs of 5 sentences. And thinking in terms of paragraphs of 5 sentences means that you know exactly what you have to write, and if you have practice and experience with it, you know what every sentence has to do. So in some ways, I would encourage you with these personal essays or personal statements, I would encourage you to think in terms of 5 paragraphs, but I don't insist, and we can work with it no matter what kind of structure you're going to use. Any questions on this one? Don't be shy. Questions are good.
you can raise your hand in the Zoom, and then Mas Iqbal can unmute you, or you can unmute yourself, and then you can ask your question. This is a very rare chance, so I encourage everyone to take it.
And we'll
questions?
have other opportunities too. But yes, I do want to encourage questions. I don't want you to just sit there and absorb.
Yes.
Yeah, please.
So what we'll do is also a Q&A at the end if you guys still have questions. Sorry, Will?
I think I raised her hand, but then also Sharon did.
Okay.
Hello, my name is Sharon. I'm from East Nusa Tenggara, and I'm actually want to apply to University of Maryland.
All right.
So my question is, in the website of University of Maryland, there are so many points that we have to address in our essays, such as preparation and motivation, research interest, and each points followed by more and more points in each in each points that we have to address. My question is, how could we wrote how could my essays could comprise every points that I have to wrote in my essay according to University of Maryland, if it's structured like this?
Yes. I would say don't even try to answer all of the points. They are putting those out there in a general kind of a way. I don't believe they really expect you to address all of those. And especially in terms of the essay structure that I'm showing you now, I would encourage you to really focus on one particular thing and put that in your introduction and your conclusion, make that your microcosmic example. And then in the body paragraphs, you can touch on some of the other points, but you do not have to address all of them. And I don't encourage you to think that you should, just choose the ones that you think that you can deal with and deal with them, because you'll be more confident that way. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Of course, and we'll have more to talk about in when we talk about the sentences as we go forward. So Ade, you Ade, you had a question.
Yes, thank you, Will. I just want to ask: is this the same thing with the STAR method, the situation, task, action, result method, using this 1-3-1 structure?
It's very similar. Yeah. I kind of created this from my own experience. But yes, the bottom line is, you called it the STAR. Is that what it was? So to me, what both of these are doing is they're giving you a structure before you begin writing. They're giving you, a shape that you can work with, so that you can get your ideas out in an organized way. So it's not exactly the same, but it is there to help you prepare and to organize your thinking. So if you prefer to use the STAR system, that's perfectly fine. Any way that you can organize your thinking before you begin writing is great. So the answer is it's very similar, but because they want you, again, for organizing beforehand. Okay.
Thanks, Will.
Thank you, Amita.
Thank you, Will. So I completely agree with Will's idea of this whole organizing your thoughts before starting to write your essay. So I usually call it outline. So yeah, if the STAR is similar, and you can also utilize this, or as simple as just putting your main points or ideas down first, then I think it will count to help you to structure.
I feel the same way. Any way that helps you before you begin writing is great. The reason that I like this particular structure, this hexagon structure, is that it really help you to know what every single sentence has to do. And, you know, if you know what every sentence has to do in your paper, then all you have to do is write it, which, you know, I think to me is confidence. And that's really the most important thing that I try to teach is being confident. So Amy.
Yeah, hello, sir. My name
Hello.
is Mita. My question is, in the body, it should be included 5 categories, or what, or we choose 1 or under 3, sir.
I'm not sure if I caught the question exactly.
In number 1, there is topic sentence, right? And the number 2 is there is quotation, and
right.
until number 5, there is a summary.
Yeah.
My question is, in the body paragraph, should be included number 1 until number 5, or we choose a certain number, sir?
Right. I mean, I think that, you know, when it comes to these personal essays, it will be a little bit different. What I'm sharing with you here is more based on like academic essays for like freshmen or, you know, undergraduates. This is a personal essay for an application, so there are some things that can be a little bit different. So like, I don't know if you need a quotation there in the middle, but you know, 5 sentences is there to help you to say what your most important point is, to give you 3 sentences to support it, and then the 5th one to summarize or to get ready to move on to the next. So
thank you, sir.
of course, and we'll, you know, when we see some of the other examples, we'll talk about those as well. All right, so thank you. Anybody, any other questions? All right, so Santika, can we go back to that essay structure share?
All right, give me 1 minute. I just converted the other file to PDF, so that's easier for everyone. A moment.
What we'll find, see last of the structure PowerPoint is that the conclusion is the bottom part of the hexagon, and it's also in the shape of a triangle. And the idea there is that your conclusion begins up here, that widest point, and then works its way back down to that microcosmic example that we saw in the introduction. So there we go. The conclusion is the opposite of the introduction. You start big. You start with statement of your thesis. I can't wait to go to the United States because I want to do 1, 2, and 3. And then your next sentences are about, you know, the United States in general. Then the next sentence might be about Maryland, right? Just the state of Maryland. Then the next sentence might be about the University of Maryland. And then the next one might be about the professor who you want to work with at the University of Maryland. And the final sentence would be about you going to the United States. So this is a basic outline, as Santika, the word that Santika used, an outline of how you can organize your thinking, how you can begin to approach the writing of your essay. Now, so many of you have already completed a good, solid first draft of your essay. So I wouldn't be telling you, if you feel comfortable with the way that it is, I wouldn't want to say change it and try to make it look more like this. But there are ways that we can polish and perhaps apply some of these principles in a general way to your specific essays. So that's really all I wanted to say in terms of introduction. Any other questions about this hexagon shape for an essay? And Santika, we could probably go back to the main screen. Ooh, sideways. There we are. Hello, everybody.
All right, we're back.
Yeah. Okay.
So thank you so much, Will, for sharing that.
Yes. Did you say you were going to try to send the PDF into the chat? Is that going to be
Yes,
possible?
so I'll be sharing a Google Drive link for the earlier file, and I'm ready for the second item that you have in a minute.
Yeah. Okay. So what I would say is, at this point, we're done with kind of the general notions of how to organize your thinking. And now I want to talk specifically about your essays. And one of the things that we'll do is we'll talk about how that essay structure that I've just presented to you can be applied to your writing. And then let's talk about the particular sentences that you have written already and think about ways that we can improve those sentences. Okay, so we have two more ways to approach these. So Santika, I am ready for that. And I think, yeah, it's a Word document that has kind of two parts to it.
Okay, so I'm sharing the essay structure first here.
Okay.
Structure. There. Oops. All right, that's the link. And I'm on to the second part. Okay, so I'm gonna go here and I'll be sharing my screen.
All righty. So, yeah, the top part is just kind of to share with you that I was really rather impressed with these essays. There were several ideas and words that I had never even heard of before. So I just wanted to kind of share those with you. The idea of deconylation, and I don't even know if that's the correct pronunciation, is very new to me. And striking. So I can understand why a person would want to help somebody with that process. Nowcasting. I mean, I've always heard of forecasting weather, but I had never heard of nowcasting. So that was kind of fun for me. I'd never heard of geotechnical engineering, which I think is kind of cool. I have heard of TESOL, Agita, if you're here, I have heard of TESOL. The human cage investigation, Japelidi, horizontal mismatch, dry land, upland rice, education technology. I am getting familiar with that, although I'm an old-fashioned person. So education technology frightens me more than anything. So I just wanted to, share with you that I read these essays. They impressed me with their ideas, with your desire to go overseas, particularly to the United States. That makes me happy. So I do want to help in whatever way that I can. So going down to the next page of this attachment, Santika, if we can, I think I put some sentences into red. Yes, so can we leave it right there? Thank you. So the ones that are in red are listed there as first sentences. And as you recall, with the general information that I just talked about, the top of the hexagon is the first sentence. And so I thought that I would share these first sentences from 4 of you and just kind of talk about how I would adjust them and the reasons that I would adjust them. Okay, so if you have any questions at any point, please raise your hand. Don't be shy, let me know, I'm happy to help. But let's just look at the first one at the top. It says, my turning point on the urgency of human rights awareness was when one of my relatives in Ambon chose to marry a Christian man and converted to, and it should probably be Christianity, converted to Christianity. Now, as a microcosmic example, that is pretty good because I am looking for one particular person doing one particular thing. But in some ways, I would try to make it even more dramatic. And let me see, I can put in the chat one way that I might do it. And of course, I'm just making up this information, but this is kind of generally what I like to encourage my students to start with. On May 25th, 2020, my cousin Maria came home and said to her parents, I'm going to marry Johnny and become a Christian, period. End quote, enter. Okay, so now I have sent that to you in the chat. And to me, the difference here is that we are focused specifically on that moment when my relative, and I've said my cousin Maria, told her parents that she's going to get married. And my guess is that this was an explosive, dramatic moment, right? When his or her parents found out that their child was going to convert to Christianity, this probably was a great shock. And so to me, that shock is something that catches the reader's attention. So you want your writing to wake up the person who is reading it. Remember, the person who is going to read this application is also going to read dozens and dozens of other applications, hundreds probably. It's their job. So what they're looking for is something that grabs them right away, that really catches their attention. Now, the way that the sentence is written, it's pretty close. It's not bad. I really like it. But if we can say the date and the time and the place, and of course, I didn't even put Ambon in there, but my cousin Maria, who lives in Ambon, came home to her parents. So to me, the time, the place, the date, that really puts it very specifically. So to me, that is what I encourage. Now, the very next sentence could be something like, when the family became angry about this news, I realized the urgency of human rights awareness. I don't know if I've spelled it correctly, right? So to me, having those two sentences together, it says, here is a dramatic moment, and here is its effect on me. Anybody have any questions about that? Perfectly fine. I will go to the others at the bottom and talk about them in exactly the same way. Okay. So the idea here is we're thinking about our in terms of a hexagon, and the very first sentence is the smallest point, and we're looking for a dramatic moment. One happening, one event that kind of makes for drama. Okay, and telling the date, the time, the place, that helps the reader to know this is where I am. Okay. All right, so I'm looking now to the next red one, which says, growing up as a citizen of the southeast province of Indonesia, East Nusa Tenggara, I have witnessed that agronomy aspects remain neglected in agriculture practice, even though agriculture is the leading sector and 64.74% of people work as farmers. So again, I think there's something interesting in there. I think that sorry?
Is
Is that you, Michael? Hmm?
Sorry, I think we had this disruption from
Oh,
unmuted participants.
okay.
So, Zulfadil, so Zulfadli, can you mute yourself? Thank you.
Okay.
All right, so I'm going to go back to the second page, right, Will?
Sure. Thank you.
Okay, and I need Mas Iqbal's help to mute the voice if any participants are joining us. Thank you.
Okay. So again, the idea is that we want with a dramatic moment, and the sentence here is good, but it's not dramatic. So what I ask is this phrase, I have witnessed, right? I have witnessed. That means I have seen something, all right? So what that you saw, right? What was the date, the time, the place, and what did you see? All right, so I'm gonna probably put that in the chat as well. So for a first sentence, date, time, right? The idea there again is that you want to present your unique experience, your instead of kind of a general thing. So I witnessed that agronomy remains neglected in agricultural practice. Well, I guess I don't necessarily know what the difference is between agronomy and agricultural practice. So having definition and useful, but again, that's your choice. But what is on September 2018, I went to the farm with my father and realized that he was not using proper chemicals, proper technique, help him maximize his growth. I don't know the words. The idea there is, I witnessed this thing and I want to explain to you what this thing was. What was this one thing that I saw that I realized things have to change here? Okay. So that's what a dramatic moment is, right? Things are not going to stay the same. Any questions on the second one? Okay. I'm going to move on, but any question, anytime. Okay, so the note said, I have been interested in the field of English for a long time. And I've got a second sentence there. I remembered the first time I was really fall in love with English back to elementary. Okay, so if you say your first sentence for a long time, basically you're not in that small microcosmic moment. So the next sentence says, I fell in love with back in elementary school. Take me back there, right? On August 31st, 2012, I sat down in my English class and the teacher read to us from Alice in Wonderland. I'm just making that up. But Alice in Wonderland is a pretty famous book. So the date, the time, the place, what happened, all right? And Alice in Wonderland is an amazing book. And of course, if you're in fifth grade in Indonesia, maybe you have no idea what it means. But in truth, many people read Alice in Wonderland because they don't know what it means. It's a very strange book. So trying to figure out the mystery of Alice in Wonderland would be like the drama. So you could say the next sentence, I fell in love with English because I tried so hard to understand that book. So to me, we're looking to begin something dramatic. We're looking to begin with a story about something unique to you. And when we do that, then we grab the reader's attention. We show that our experience is special, and the person who's reading it realizes it right away. Oh, here's somebody who has a story to tell. Any questions?
I will.
I'm
Okay.
ready.
So my question is, this is if we start with story, that is gonna be like this, right? With the date, time, place, and what happened. So what if we start with the like a research project, for example, or like a statistical kind of data or something?
Yeah.
So how we can
Yeah.
make it like more interesting on that? Because if the story, if that's going to be like interesting, a lot of thing that we can say. What about like something research experience or something, or like data or something that make people want to read more our essays?
Yeah, you know, my first response to that is there anybody who wants to read more data? You know, what we're doing with this application is two things. First, we are saying, I have specific knowledge that if I bring this to America, I can improve that knowledge and I Indonesia. The other is, I want to get this knowledge in the United States. And so that's really, to me, it's two different things. Now, you can definitely bring them together in the whole essay, but in terms of the introduction, in terms of the first sentence or two, I would definitely encourage you to focus on, I want to go to America, you know, for this reason, or because of this experience, really. Now, let's say we're talking about the agronomy paragraph, or the first two sentences of the agronomy. So I'm just making this up. On August 10th, 2015, I went with my father, who is a farmer in East Nusa Tenggara, to his rice field. I noticed that he didn't use a familiar practice. I don't know what the practice are. Familiar practice. And I realized, I'm going to make that one sentence. And I realized, trying to spell correctly, that I was interested in agronomy in East Nusa Tenggara. So to me, we're bringing the idea of, as you said, the specific knowledge that I have, or, you know, it's not necessarily the research, but it's my interest in this particularly specific subject, and the reason why, how I came to this point. So to me, if you want to do it in one or two quick sentences, I think that's possible. Iqbal, does that partially at least address your question?
Yes.
You know, it takes a lot of practice to kind of to get everything you want to say exactly where you want to say it. And especially since I don't know anything about agronomy, I can't really find the right words for it. But I think you don't necessarily want to rush into your research specialty until you've caught the interest of the reader. And that interest is going to be, you know, that dramatic moment Other questions? Right, so to my
May I
mind,
answer?
please.
So what I get from your explanation, so if I want to explain the experience I have, so it should be in specific. Is it correct, sir?
What I like to,
Uh,
I think there's room for both specific and general. The
Specific and
specific is the introduction and the conclusion. The general is in the body paragraphs, right? So you can get your statistics and your research experience and your achievements, all those can go into the body paragraphs. But for the intro and the conclusion, my feeling is, yeah, a specific story, something small.
Okay, thank you, sir.
All right. I think we have one more first sentence, first paragraph here. And I'm just, thank you, Ray. So this actually looks like the whole first paragraph, or at least. So the first sentence says, in the middle of the 21st century, education and technology cannot be separated. Now, I know that in writing class, Indonesian students are told statement. My feeling is that that is exactly the opposite of what I am trying to tell you. So I know that I am sharing technique that is you familiar with, but I suppose and writing classes, and the most effective, or what a Western educated mind is looking for, is an introduction that is small, that leads to a thesis that is big, and going from the small thing to the big thing and back up and down. That is what a reader is looking for. You can show that you have control over both the small things and the big you're writing. And so starting in a small way, to me, is what is expected. Okay, so that's education and technology cannot be separated. In other words, they should be used together at the same time to improve learning that prepares learners to compete in the global economy. To me, those are great sentences. There's nothing wrong with them, but I would move them down. I would not use them as the first sentences. The third sentence here says, the number of my teaching experiences has informed me that master of technology would be solution to instructional design issue and help teachers at blah, 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 blah. Okay. To me, the key words there are the number of my teaching experiences. Choose one. Choose one teaching experience. Didn't have the educational technology and right? So just for example, in my classes now, I don't use anymore. And so just from my personal experience, I can tell you on March 5th or March 6th, Monday, March 6th, 2023, I went into my office at the Bali Bahasa and asked and tried to print an article from a newspaper on a printer at the office, but the printer didn't work. So here, the technology is not working for me, and that's the drama, right? That's the story. And not having something printed out that I want to have printed out. So I asked somebody in Bali Bahasa, and they said, just take a picture of it and send the picture through your WhatsApp group to the class. Okay, well, that was the solution. The solution was that I could use another level of technology to get the information that I wanted to my students, right? The old-fashioned technology is to photocopy, to print something out and photocopy it and give everybody paper. But now I don't even need paper. I just take a picture and I can send it electronically. I just said that in a lot of different words, but if I could organize it into a story, I could put that first sentence, I tried to print something out, but the printer didn't work, and I didn't know how I was going to share the information with my students. Any questions about this idea?
So I have a question.
Please.
I have been teaching as, I think I identify myself as a traditional English teacher. I have been teaching at a private college in Aceh. And I think students are not engaged in my English as foreign language class when I do not use technological stuff in my class. So I think the problem here is that the engagement, the issue of the engagement, and that's why this is the foundation or the reason why I want to study in the United States. I want to study more advanced in technology and then bring my knowledge and skills from there to my college to provide the solution to the problem.
Which is wonderful. So to me, then your microcosmic example, your story is, I once went into the classroom and I tried to read from a book to my students, or I tried to share with them a photocopy that I took from the newspaper, but they were not engaged. So I decided I would take a picture of it and share it with them through WhatsApp, and they loved it. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I do.
Okay, so the idea here is to start with that story. I don't know if this is your particular paragraph here, Zulfadli, but what I would look for is all of these sentences are fine, but instead of saying the number of my teaching experiences, is I would put at the beginning, I would say on March 5th, 2023, I went into the classroom with photocopied paper, and the students were not interested. To me, that's a drama, that's a story, and then you can follow that up with, in the middle of the 21st century, education and technology cannot be separated. Students have learned through technology all of their lives, and that's what they expect. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it really makes sense. So thank you very much.
Okay,
it's very
good.
thoughtful.
Good. Ade, you have your hand raised.
Yes, Will. So in the case when we're trying to express something, but there are a lot of technical terms that we're going to use, shall we start with the story and explain the technical term, or how should we express it?
Right. Yeah. So I as a reader yesterday, when I got these, I did not know the technology, right? I didn't know the technical information. So what I would say is, you should expect that somebody is going to read that personal statement on your application who does understand the technology or the technical language. So I would say you should not worry about defining technical language, because eventually somebody is going to read it who does know. So I would not say you have to define it, because that takes time, and it takes words that you really can't waste. So all of those, the idea of decannulation, it doesn't need a lot of definition. Now casting, just as a term that came up yesterday, it doesn't need a lot of definition. I would not take a lot of time, or I would not use a lot of words to do that. Make sense?
Okay, so I just want to confirm, I don't really have to explain what the technical term means. Is that correct?
Not in the very beginning. I think, to me, the story stands. You can use the technical terms, you just don't have to explain them. Does that make sense? Because, again, somebody is going to read that application who really does know what it means, and then they won't need the definition.
Okay, okay, okay then. Thank you, Will.
And Lilis,
Hi, Will. It's a question. First is with the details that you mentioned, the date and the time, the microscopic sentence, right? Would you also advise that for the PhD essays, like the students applying for the PhD? And second of that, what if the statistics that the students use in the essays, they use that to kind of say that, oh, this data, this heartbreaking data has sparked their interest to learn more about this or to contribute in this field? Would you suggest that as well? Like, thank you.
absolutely. And you can use that in the first sentence too, or not the first sentence, excuse me, the first paragraph.
Okay.
But not many people are brought to an understanding of their own interests just by numbers, right? So I think there were two people who wrote about weather and disasters in Indonesia. And it wasn't the numbers that kind of woke them up to this as a problem. It was a landslide, right? There was a lot of rain and a landslide fell in a village next to mine, and 400 people were buried and killed. And that's what made me interested. So the story and the numbers can work together in the first paragraph. But I mean, for me, numbers are secondary, and you can use the numbers in the body paragraphs, but the first information really just should be like a human story, right? Does that answer your question?
Yes, right. Thank
Great.
you.
No problem. And Ade, back to you.
Yes, I have one more question. So I'm applying to Johns Hopkins. At first, when I started my first draft, I started to use this hexagon approach, try to use the microscopic example, and then start zooming out the story and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
And then after I take the second look, my word limits is usually around 300 words or 500 words. And at that time, if I use that kind of approach, I don't manage to address all the points that being asked in the essay question. So what's your suggestion on
My suggestion is don't try to answer all the points that they are suggesting. It's you have control. You're the writer.
Yeah.
And the questions that they're asking you, they send you in 5 different directions, and you just don't have enough space to work with. So I would say choose the 1 or 2 that you can address most directly, and use a microcosmic example as a small thing to lead to the bigger thing. And then once you get to that bigger thing, support it with everything that you have.
Okay. Okay.
Statistics, experience in school, papers, achievements, any of those things that support it.
So it's very important to stick with the personal story and try to address the 2, for example, major questions, and then try to touch certain points on the other questions. Is that correct?
I feel between the 2, if it's I have to answer 5 different things in 500 words, or I want to tell one story to get somebody's attention, this is more important to me.
Okay.
Because when you start talking about 5 different things, there's no coherence, there's no connection with the person who's reading it. And that's really what this is about. You are writing a personal statement that another person is going to read, and you want that person to wake up and say, "Ooh, this is interesting. This is different. This is unique," because that's what will help your application move forward.
Okay. Thank you, Will.
Yeah. Okay. So we have spent a lot of time on this, and I think it is very important. And let me see if I can do one quick thing here. Iqbal sent me some good information that I wanted to share with you. Let me just make sure that I can find it here. Right.
Hi, Will. Is it the links in the email that you're referring to?
I've just put it in the chat right now.
Right.
There are three different rubrics from different universities in the States. And all of them are actually different. I think they have good ideas. Personally, I would say the last one, Purdue, the OWL, is the one that I would support as being the best for the work that you're doing. And one of the things that it says in the Purdue OWL is be specific. Right. And so when you see that be specific, read that in detail and let it, let that guide you a little bit as well. So I like all of these. I think they can help you. Personally, I would say the Purdue one is most applicable, or at least it's the one that I feel most comfortable with. All right. So, I mean, we can talk more about that, but I also thought I would just share one more thing about sentence structure. Can we go back, Santika, to that list of sentences again?
Okay. One.
Thank you. So what I did was I read everybody's essay and I took one or two sentences from it. And these are sentences that I feel like need work. And I wanted to share the approach that I would take, so we can get rid of all the red there. Yeah, just right in the middle. That's good. So I'm going to type it in the chat here. There are three principles. Oops. Three principles that I teach to my students oops, I didn't mean to do that. Three principles that I teach to tell my students, these are the best things that you can do to make your sentences better. Strong subjects, action verbs, and compression. All right. So a strong subject is a person, because a person can do things. An idea is not a strong subject because ideas can't do anything. And so some of you actually had some really good strong subject sentences, and I didn't take them out and show them because they're good. Don't change them if you have good strong subjects and action verbs. But if you can recognize where you're not using strong subjects and action verbs, that's the best way to polish up your sentences. Correct those problems, and that will be it. So let's say the first one here says, my bachelor's degree in international relations has led me. Okay, so the subject there is my bachelor's degree. Can a bachelor's degree do something? Not really, right? You can do something with a bachelor's degree. So maybe something like, after I received, excuse me, I got to spell right, my bachelor's degree, I realized I wanted to focus on human rights, period. Now, you could say more, of course, but I'm just moving quickly here. Okay. So after I received my bachelor's degree is what we call a subordinate clause. It's connected, but it's not the main point. I realized I wanted is a strong subject and action verb. And that is what makes that sentence stronger than to say, my bachelor's degree has led me. Does anybody have any questions about that? Yes, I'll get your email, my email to you by the time this is over. Okay. So again, strong subjects and action verbs will make a longer sentence shorter. And I was just going to go to a second sentence there. There we are. let's see. Let's go with this one. The collaboration helped us achieve our objective and reduce costs. Now, that's a pretty short sentence, but it does not have a strong subject because collaboration is just an idea. And it does not have an action verb because helped us is actually kind of passive. So how about because, yeah, I spelled it right, because we collaborated, we achieved our objective and reduced costs, period. It's not really, it's maybe a slight bit longer, but we have these two strong subjects and action verbs. We collaborated, we achieved. And those are strong. Collaborate, achieve, a reader knows directly what happened. We worked together and we got what we wanted. So strong subjects, action verbs, very important. Any questions? So there is another one here just before the red sentences again. It is possible that in the future, if there is no solution and proper attempt to perform the right agricultural practice, the varieties of upland rice no longer exist in ENT. Now, I feel very sure that if we choose a strong subject and an action verb, this sentence will be shorter. And that's what I mean by compression. Fewer words, more power. Okay, so first off, if there is no solution and proper attempt, what can be the subject of that sentence? If we're looking for a strong subject, who is going to make a proper attempt? Who is going to try to solve the problem? That's a question for you. Who works on agriculture?
Farmer.
Farmers. Farmers are your strong subject, okay? So if farmers use the correct practices, they will solve the problem of failure of upland rice. Now, I've made that probably shorter than it needs to be. And it's not I farmers, it's if. If farmers, ... And I spelled farmers wrong the second time, but I'm moving too quickly. So the idea here is we want to put strong subjects in as many sentences as we can, because strong subjects speak directly to the reader. There's no question in the reader's mind who you're talking about if you identify who it is, okay? So to me, that's very important. And if you have a strong subject, the strong subject will take action. So that action verb and not a passive verb. And when you use strong subjects and action verbs, then your sentences will be more compressed. Fewer words, more power. And here's another benefit of compression. Let's say you have a 500 word limit. And you do your first draft and it's 500 words exactly, but then you go through it and you compress it to 450 words. Then you have 50 more words that you can add to help you to give more information in that limited space of time or limited space. Okay, so we are at about 10 minutes left, and I feel like we should just have a general question and answer session here. Santika, if you want to kind of bring us back all together, that might be the way to end this, okay? Okay, so you all
Hi,
have the
Will.
questions, please. Hello.
So I assume we are done with the first sentences, right?
Yeah, I mean, I could go on and on and on.
I know.
Yeah.
So I realized probably not everybody joining at the same time during when we started, where I provided the education as an introduction and what we can do for all of you and everyone who wants to study in the States, basically. So I want to enlighten you that you don't only have Will, but you have all Education USA advisors in Indonesia to help you review your essay, CV, resume, and if you have any questions or you need tips on how to get letter of recommendations, whether they're important, or things that you just want to check or you don't understand fully from the website that you are reading. Okay. And if you go to like websites and you're not sure if this information is accurate or not, you can find us too. Okay. Dan caranya gampang banget. You can only sign up to make an appointment to meet us virtually or in person through Calendly website. So I'm going to share the Calendly link in the chat box. But it's calendly.com/educationusa Indonesia. So I'm going to type it right here, calendly.com, Education USA Indonesia. So the difference with what Will was doing and sharing today with the review that I usually provide to my advisees is that I'm doing it one-on-one and we'll do it in the classroom way, which is fun in its way. But if you feel like, you know, you want to share something more private or like stories, right? Then one-on-one could probably work better for you too. And Will is definitely, you know, like looking at the structure, you know, your sentences, you know, how to better make powerful sentences and everything. But for me, and I think most Education USA advisors here, we read the essay as something that's holistic, whether it makes sense or not to us as a stranger who's reading. Jadi contohnya kalau misalnya nih, aku baca essay kamu dari awal sampai akhir, terus kayak kamu yang di pertama kamu ngomong di paragraf pertama mungkin kamu ngomong kamu lahir di mana. Terus nanti di paragraf kedua kamu langsung ngomong kamu udah ngajar gitu. So that's like, you know, like very far away. Like from your first paragraph, you were saying like where you were born, when you were born. And then the next paragraph, you just jump off to when you're studying in, you know, your undergraduate years, which is fine. But if you don't have a strong context that, you know, bridge that two ideas, then I would let you know, like, hey, maybe you need some bridging here, you know, like, so we are more on the, you know, the content and the stories that you provide, whether it makes sense or not. And also maybe it's nice to see perspective from someone who's not in the same expert field. So like Will said, like he, you know, like the ergonomic and everything. So I'm not an expert in any of those fields too, but reading different essays from different field will be beneficial for you to see if like, you know, if people understand what you're trying to say, you know? So yeah, so bedanya di situ, you just need to go to the Calendly to book your session. And if Will feel comfortable in sharing his email, he will share it. There you go. Thank you, Will.
Just sent it to the chat, yeah. And actually, I did stop a little early.
Yes.
I guess we have until 3:30, is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. Am I right, Mas Iqbal?
Yes.
Yeah, so
Okay.
I actually, I pulled the plug a little bit early. If we want to keep talking about sentences, I'm happy to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll be happy to answer any questions related to Education USA. If you just want to check on anything about Education USA, if we can do this, if we can do that, then feel free to ask your questions. And I just saw that we have our fellow advisors here dengan Kak Lilis di Banda Aceh. Terus Mas Iqbal itu base-nya di US Embassy. Hi Lilis. Kalau aku base-nya virtual, but I also can go to my America Jakarta in the US Embassy. So most advising sessions are done virtually juga these days because after the pandemic, which is convenient, we usually do Zoom or Google Meet, right? Terus kalau kalian mau diskusi scholarship options or opportunities, we can do that too. So basically anything, almost everything you need to study in the States, you can find Education USA, and everything's free of charge, right? So a lot of people are like so hesitant because they don't know how much they should pay, but everything is free because we are the US State Department and we are funded by the US government. So you don't have to worry about a thing. And what we want is for you to go to the States to study. That's it. Any question? Yang baru join mungkin bingung atau miss sesuatu yang mau ditanyain. So we have shared a few things when we just started. So this is the essay structure that Will shared with us. I'm going to copy it again, just in case anyone just joined us after I share that. So you're welcome, Ade. And if anyone wants to share anything, like maybe you have difficulties in understanding certain things for you to plan your US study, then we are here to answer your questions too.
Yeah, I feel like yeah, please don't be shy. We have much more time, so anything you want to talk about.
And this is a series of 3 parts. So this time, the first session we have Will, and then the second session we will have different Relo fellow, and the third one also with a different Relo fellow. So this is the only time you will be able to meet Will in the session. So I suggest you to make the best out of it. Terus apalagi ya? Maybe I also want to share that the essay review that we provide from Education USA, a one-time thing. Jadi misalnya nih hari ini kamu belajar dari Will untuk memperbaiki draft kamu, ya. Kamu kirim ke aku misalnya buat session sama aku review. Nanti kamu udah dapat input dari aku, kamu perbaiki lagi, kamu revisi. Nanti kamu bisa balik lagi ke aku, right? So yeah, it's basically based on how much you need it. So it's not like one-time thing and then that's it, it's not like that gitu. Dan untuk sesi-sesi lain, misalnya kamu mau nanya nih, terus udah ada update atau udah ada apa, terus mau nanya lagi, then you can come back again. So it's not like we limit things like cuman bisa satu orang cuman boleh 1 kali gitu, nggak, ya. So I hope that helps and that ease your mind. I know the essay could be scary, but it is the only chance for you to let them know something that's outside of your grades. Jadi benar-benar penting. Yeah.
Santika, we have 2 questions being asked.
Oh, okay. I didn't see them. Is it in the chat box, Will? Or
Zaki and Zulfadli.
okay.
So Zaki, let's go with you first.
Okay, thank you. I have 2 questions. The first is to what extent that we should develop our specific interest, specific experience. Is it important to us trying to discuss the global issue related to our interests, or we just focus on the problem in our country related to our interests? That's the first question. And the second, many universities in the US requires 2 types of essays. The first personal statement and the other is statement of purpose. And I still confused how to differentiate both essays and also how to connect both essays. Thank you.
Okay. I think the first question is a good one, and the more that you can bring these 2 things together, your personal interest, the needs of the country, I think that's the ideal, right? The more that you can unite those, the better. But I do feel like the first story, the introductory story, really should be more personal. It should be how your interest in this problem occurred. Now, for some of you, maybe it was like you were in a laboratory. Maybe it wasn't an event in country. Me, that's just as good. And I hope that answers that question. The idea is between your interest and your country's problems, try to unite them in the whole piece, but I would start with your personal experience, your personal interest first. In terms of the personal statement versus the statement of purpose, ouch, I don't really know what the difference is, although just looking at the words, personal statement would be more based on general things in your life, and statement of purpose would be like, this is what I expect to do in my education with my education, right? What is the purpose for me to come to the United States, to go to this school, to study these things, to return to my country, and to share my knowledge? I think, there's space in both of those for both, what generally your life and the specifics. But if your university is saying that you should do this statement of purpose, then that should be more focused on, again, your education, what you're going to do, how you're going to do it. And the personal statement may be a little bit more general. Zaki, does that answer your two questions?
Yes, I got it. Thank you.
Thanks, Will. Thank you, Zaki, for the question. So I personally think sometimes when advisee come to me with two sets of essay for the same university, and the university asks for both statement of purpose and personal essay, of course, it gets really confusing, right? What I usually tell my advisees is that you want to make sure you're not talking about the exact same things in two different essay that you submit. Jadi pastikan aja, jadi poin-poin yang kamu taruh di personal statement nggak sama dengan statement of purpose. So they can have some overlapping topics, but not exactly, same essay, same storyline with just different words and different types of sentences that won't do. So you want to make sure that you give them a different dimension of you, whether that's in other aspect, like other than the personal, other than your work, other than your social life, other than your volunteer work and things like that. So you want to make sure you give them as many, like version of you as possible. Jadi kalau diminta dua-duanya itu baru applicable. Kalau diminta salah satunya, then just focus on one of them. But then I would say always check if there is a question or a guide for you to write any essay that they requested, regardless if it's personal essay or personal statement or statement of purpose. Sometimes they give you specific questions and they want you to do your best to answer those questions. And I know in the beginning of the session, Will have said it's kind of like not that possible to answer every single thing that they ask for, because sometimes they're just like giving you options. Jadi biasanya the prompt or the question that they put is something like, tell us about your education background and professional proficiency, and also why you want to study in the States, why you and blah, 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 blah. Those are a lot, right? So sometimes they're similar. You don't have to like answer them very specifically like it's a mathematical question, but you just have to give them roughly what they are looking for, So I hope that helps. We have one more question, right?
Zufadli had his hand raised.
Tadi ada lagi yang mau nanya, siapa yang raise hand?
Sorry, I would,
Oh, Zufadli. Yeah, Zufadli.
Yeah, I would ask if this afternoon we are focusing, in this webinar, we are focusing on personal statement or study objectives, because Will a particular part of my study objectives and put it into the into his presentation. And so because I was late to join the webinar, and my question is are we focusing on only personal statement or study objectives?
I was not focusing on any one thing at all. What I understood was that each of you has really different things that you're addressing. And so I was trying to be more general. Statement of objectives will be more specific than a personal statement. It absolutely will. And depending on the number of words that they allow you, if it's a small number of words, I probably would not waste much time with a story, right? I would just say, I want to get my major in this. This is what I expect to study. This is the teacher I want to study with. That's fine. To me, that would be much more specific than anything that I've discussed in this session.
I agree. So, tadi siapa yang nanya? Zul, kalau kamu tahu, ini kan sessionnya spesifik kita ngirim dulu draft, right? So, participants of this event already sent the draft of the essay, and then we'll have read them, and that's why we'll compile like the first sentences and then talk about it elaborately. So yes, it's not specifically on like how to write statement of purpose or personal essay or objective statement. But yes, the idea is that you can come to us once you have your draft and your plan to study in the States to EducationUSA, and then we can talk more if you get really confused there. Jadi intinya kalau kalian udah punya draft, coba dulu dibawa aja ke kita. Nanti kita lihat di part mana yang make sense, di mana yang perlu di-improve, right? And it's not only essay review or CV review, and because Zul came in late, so want to let you know that we do much more than that. If you just have questions, you can come in. Okay, so I hope that helps. And if you guys have more questions, maybe we can try to encourage you to book an advising session through the calendly.com/educationusa Indonesia. Aku udah taruh di Zoom chat box, but if you miss it, you can raise your hand and I will give it again in the Zoom chat box. And Will, I think we're going to end the session earlier in 10 minutes because we have covered everything today. Thanks to you and your explanation and very effective sheets and handouts. So yeah. One more thing maybe that we want to add is, nope, I think I'm done. Yes, so you're welcome.
Yeah, I mean, any last questions? We do have a little bit more time. I'm happy to help. So I do wish you luck. I admire any. Oh, okay, Ade, is that you? Yeah, you have one more question.
Yeah, actually, I have two questions. One question for Will and one question for Santika. So the first question is to Will. I have when the essay prompt is asking about career aspiration. Actually, I have sort of a plan A and plan B for my career aspirations. I was thinking that should I mention that I have plan A and plan B, and if I have only to pick one between plan A and plan B, which one should I choose? Because if I can mention my plan A is really specific, but I think it's very hard for most people to relate to it. But my plan B is probably more broad and more people can relate to it, but it's my plan B. So what's your suggestion on that? And my second question to Santika, I heard that EducationUSA is providing, I think, GRE training or something like that. And I keep missing out on the schedule. So I wonder if EducationUSA is providing another GRE training in the future. So thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mutia, for the question. So I think it will be fun to see if Will and I have the same opinion about your first question too. I usually go for the specific, but I usually tell my advisees if you have two aspirations and like one of them are like really formal and one of them is really like it's something that you want to do as voluntary or like on like this part-time teaching or anything like that on top of your first aspiration, then I don't think you have to choose, right? You can put both. That's actually better for me. But if it's like two same fields and you feel like both of them are like very professional and have to be full-time, then maybe you have to choose. I would vote for the specific one, even though a lot of people in Indonesia think that what are the chances that I can be that person or get that role, get that job, because it's really hard. I always hit for, if it's still realistic, then you can put it down there. Even if your goal is to be the president, and if you can, like give the brief plan of how you want to be a president in Indonesia, I would support that. So that's my take. And the second question about Education USA is the GRE, right? So we had a few in the past, the GRE prep course back in Ed America. And all of the Ed America sessions, Education USA Ed America sessions were recorded. So you can email me, Mutia, and I will share you the compiled YouTube link. But I do think that we need to make GRE prep again in the future. So hopefully we can match your time later. But yeah, do email me. I'll share my email to you personally, and then you can email me to ask for the compiled link. Okay. All
Thank you.
right. So, Will, what do you say?
Yeah, I guess, in terms of plan A and plan B, it really, the context of the question is important, right? We talked about the possibility of a statement of objectives. And, if you were going to state your objectives to me, that's just plan A, right? This is what I want. This is what my objective is. This is number one. But if we're talking a more general kind of personal statement, I might be, as Santika said, a little bit more willing to show some flexibility and say, plan A is my ideal, and I think I'm ready for it. But if I don't have that opportunity, then I can still pursue plan B. And if you have the space to answer that and to address both of those, then I think that's fine. But the context is very important, right? If they say, what is your objective, then don't be split. Just say, this is my objective. This is plan A. This is it. But if you have a little more space and you can be more general, then certainly show them flexibility.
Thanks,
Yes,
Will.
completely agree with that. All right. So also that I know most of the essays that the US University requested, they do put a page limit, like no more than 2 pages, or like word limit, like word count, no more than 500 words or something like that. But I always think that the most common mistakes a lot of Indonesians make when they are drafting and early drafts at that point is that they follow the word limit and the page limit so closely that there are a lot of things that they want to write, but it's like cropped out. So I think it's best to do an outline, or what Will had with us earlier today, the structure first, and then elaborate from that. And if it exceeds the word limit or the page limit by a little bit in the very beginning, then I think that's fine. And you can come to me with that draft or any other Education USA advisor's draft, any Education USA advisor for the input for your drafts first. Or you can go to Will if you want. Yes, Will.
Can I add one thing? Yeah. What I tell my students is the first draft is just getting all of your ideas out. Don't even count the words. Just get the ideas out. And for Santika, you're saying make bullet points or make an outline.
Yes.
You don't even have to write full sentences. I think that's good. But even then, if you write more than 500 words with a 500 word limit on a first draft, you can reduce that just by focusing on the sentences, right? You don't have to change too many of the ideas. If you follow the strong subjects, action verbs, and compression, you can work your way back from 520 to 485 pretty easily.
Yes, completely agree with you, Will. So yes, the first few drafts are like what we want is you get all of the ideas and the things that you want to say in that essay. then we will refine it into a better version and a better version. So don't get tired to revise and revise and revise, because that's like one of the tips too, that when I'm compiling those links to Mas Iqbal and then Mas Iqbal shared with Will, is that revising is that important. So for all of you here, I know you probably will love this session and you will want to have another EEC in the part 2. But I'm going to let you know that in the part 2, so there will be another Relo fellow like Will, who will be helping us. And hopefully this session is enough for you to connect with Will and Education USA moving forward. So hopefully the second session will be able to have a new batch. But if you want to come back for the second part, we will welcome you too. Okay, so I think that's all from me.
Sorry, Santika. I do want to encourage you all to come to the other ones. Thomas and Gina and Art, they're all professional teachers. They all have different approaches. I think it could not hurt to hear what they have to say. They're very good. Definitely. I think they're better than me, to be honest with you. So if you like what I did today, then I'm sure they can offer you something equal.
Yes. So if you need more of this, and you need more of this kind of training like today, then yes, you're more than welcome to join us for the second and the third part. But if you feel like, okay, this is it, I want to focus on my draft and revising, then you can find Will and Education USA for the private one-on-one review sessions. Okay, so that's it from me today, and thank you so much, Will. Thank you, Mas Iqbal and Lilis, for coming in today as well and hosting us. I'm giving it back to Mas Iqbal for any last words and goodbye or announcement for the next session. Thank you.
Thank you, Santika. Thank you.
Okay, so I think it is the last session. I think we're good. All right, thank you, Will. Thank you, Santika. Thank you for everybody. So yeah, we wait for you if you're interested for the next session. We wait for you. If not, just prepare your first draft. All right. Thank you so much. Good luck. Finger crossed for everything you do.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Zaki, for the clap.